Good morning, everyone. This is Vatsal Shah, your host for the day, and I'll be hosting your virtual track for the day. And in the afternoon, I will be also talking along with my friend Vikrant Shukla. We are starting our first session, we have some amazing presentation with us. We have Yvonne Szeto. She is Worldpay's Global Enterprise e-commerce team from the Worldpay's Global Enterprise team. And she's a vice president for Global Enterprise e-commerce in APAC region. And she has studied in Australia, living in Singapore, and she will have a great insights on the payments, which is one of the key area we look at in e-commerce user experience. So over to you, Szeto.
Thank you so much, screen. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Yvonne Szeto. I am Vice President of Commercial for Worldpay in the APAC region, and I'm delighted to have the next 30 minutes to share with you why payments plays a crucial role in how consumers perceive your brand and whether they will buy from you. Before I jump into the presentation, if I may just have a couple of minutes to give you a little bit about my background. As Vatsal shared, I lead the APAC team for our commercial division, and I have teams covering solutions consulting on the technical solutioning side, business development executives, relationship managers across Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and India. I have over 16 years of experience in merchant acquiring and card issuing. So I am very passionate about payments. I love helping customers achieve their objectives, improve customer experience and business performance. As Vatsal shared earlier, I am now living in Asia. I am of Chinese heritage, so living and working in Asia has always been a dream of mine, and I was really happy to have the opportunity to transfer over from Australia to Singapore at the end of last year with my family, and it has been great, and I'm sure it will be even greater once the borders open up across the world. So that's a bit about me. I'll get into the presentation now. How important is payment, the payment process for user experience? At Worldpay, we conducted research across 35,000 consumers to understand the importance of payments in the overall shopper's user experience. And what we found is that payments is extremely important to unlocking a frictionless customer journey, whether they're shopping online or in store. Our research focused on payments across the whole shopping experience, from awareness to consideration to conversion and finally to evaluation. And today we will examine the insights within each of these steps. The first step of experience is awareness. And that means what are the triggers and influences that help a shopper become aware of your brand. When it comes to awareness, we found that it's really important to be where your customers are. I think prior to COVID, most retailers thought, having the shop front and a premium location was king. I think what COVID has really shown us is that all channels are important in retail. There are a lot more people shopping online since COVID, and they're shopping more since COVID. This includes a segment of customers such as mum and dad who have never really done shopping online before. And when shopping online, most people tend to gravitate towards channels such as your desktop browser, mobile browser, as well as mobile apps. And over half of consumers have bought via social media. Some highlights here for you. China seems to be the most progressive across the markets we interviewed. 60% of their shoppers prefer to use mobile apps, which is one of the later technologies, compared to Australia and Japan, where majority of shoppers still prefer using the more traditional methods like desktop browser for their online shopping. So what this tells us is that no longer can you just concentrate on your in-store experience. You really need to optimize your presence online, on mobile, and on social. Innovation trends nowadays really influence a brand's marketing strategy. And even before the pandemic hit, I think retail was ripe for an overhaul, particularly the online shopping experience. We think augmented reality and virtual reality, AR and VR, will become the norm of the future. Actually, I was going to share some use cases about retailers that are using augmented reality and virtual reality. So retailers such as IKEA, I'm sure everyone knows about IKEA. They have been using augmented reality for quite some time to help consumers digitally project furniture into their homes. And this helps customers more accurately judge whether the size and style of the item suits their space. And this type of technology is now more used commonly in other shopping categories such as cosmetics, glasses, fashion in general, anything really a consumer wants to buy. In a slightly different use case, we see Nike, the likes of Nike, letting customers enter a virtual reality world. And this is to allow customers to experience the different steps in Nike's supply chain so they can understand how items are being made. This is particularly important to a segment of the population such as the millennials, who are particularly conscious about sustainability and social corporate responsibility. The stats here are compelling. 35% of shoppers have used augmented reality to make a purchase in the last 12 months, and another 45% are interested and would like to. So we have over 80% of shoppers who already have an awareness and an appetite to view items on augmented reality. Not surprisingly, China is up there again, ahead of the curve. We've got 65% of shoppers have made a purchase through augmented reality. India is not far behind either. I think they're in the 60% as well. And only 3% of China don't really have an interest in shopping through augmented reality. So with AR and VR becoming mainstream consumer journeys, it's important for payments to help make these journeys as frictionless as possible. And what this means is let your customers buy products without leaving the AR or VR experience. And the stats here tell us nearly a third of them don't want to leave the experience in order to pay. The second step of the consumer journey is consideration. And this is when they conduct product and company research. And you have one shot as a company to really grab the consumer's attention and to get them to make a purchase. We found there are quite a number of ways payments can really help build trust needed for consumers to consider making a purchase with you. But the main one we found was localization. So it's crucial to grab your shopper's attention from the first interaction. Presenting a localized view of your website is critical in encouraging a shopper to purchase, especially when they're shopping cross-border. 34% of these customers told us that they would like to purchase if they are more likely to purchase if they can see the site in their local language. Another 10% simply said they wouldn't complete a sale unless it was in their local language. So all up, 44% want and need to see the website in their local language. This we found was most important in the health and beauty category. This is possibly because shoppers are becoming incredibly savvy about ingredients and the benefits that they get out of it. So they want to understand more about the product they're purchasing. 40% of customers we interviewed said they'd like to see their local currency to buy. Japanese shoppers were actually the most forgiving, although still 25%, a quarter of shoppers said sales will be impacted if they don't see their local currency. In the opposite end of the poll, we've got LATAM and India, who feel very strongly about seeing their local currency. So what these stats really tell us is that the acceptance currency that you show to your potential customers is really a fundamental area for optimization. Return policies really also make a difference. Having a convenient returns policy is a bit of a safety net for shoppers. It influences over 90% of customers whether they will buy, and it also influences a similarly high percentage of customers on how much they will buy. Interestingly, only 5% of shoppers return items with their orders, and of those, 42% return less frequently than once in 10 orders. I'm possibly, you know, a retailer's dream. I'm pretty lazy. When I purchase something and I don't like it, it often sits somewhere deep in the cupboard, and I think I'm going to return it. And by the time I get around to it, you know, the return sort of time frame has already been expired. But you know what? I commit to the purchase because the option is there to return it. So it's definitely an important consideration. All right. So the third step of the payment experience is conversion. We find having preferred payment methods is important, right? Your shoppers prefer certain payment methods in order to convert that sale. Again, it's all about convenience in the shopper experience and offering them a quick and easy way to check out. What you want them to do is spend time shopping, not spend time thinking about, you know, whether their payment method's there or not, and get frustrated and think about pulling out different cards or bank accounts in order to finish the sale. If you don't offer the preferred payment method, we found 65% of customers will actually just buy the same product from a competitor who offers them the payment method of choice. And it's important to reduce the friction at checkout. I think you may have heard the terminology about making payment invisible, and certainly this can really help reduce the friction at checkout. I mentioned before about, you know, pulling out cards and punching in numbers. There are simpler ways to offer payment for a customer to really help convert the sale. 70% are more likely to buy if you offer them a one-click option. You know, my personal preference, although I probably shouldn't say this in a broad audience, but, you know, I prefer using, you know, payment methods like Apple Pay or PayPal, where my cards are already loaded onto that type of payment wallet, and I don't have to key in any sort of digits or punch in too many other credentials in there. So having one click is a really great way to maximize conversion of sale. Importantly as well, when a transaction fails, it's actually helpful to let a customer know why the transaction has failed. For example, you punched in the expiry date incorrectly, or perhaps you know, there's insufficient funds. It's important to let the customer know. Right, so they're not second guessing. Where possible, pre-populate any fields if you can. So some retailers have enabled you to be able to populate, say, the postcode, and it sort of shortlists, you know, what the street addresses are, so you can select from sort of a pick list. You can also offer account updater, so that cards on file are saved. What that enables a retailer to do is not worry about cards expiring, which, you know, have different cycles, you know, generally 3 years. Having a tool like account updater allows the issuer to pass information to the acquirer, which then refreshes any sort of cards that have expired and got a new expiry date without the retailer having to take any action. Basically, what I'm saying is make it as easy as possible for payments, and not to give people a second reason why whether they should purchase or not. All right, we're on to the last step of the user experience in purchasing, and the last step is evaluation. Even after purchasing, it's important to maintain a great customer experience. And as they evaluate the experience that they've had with your brand, they will, of course, give feedback to their friends. And we know how powerful that can be. So communication methods with your shoppers and whether they meet their expectations is an important factor. One way payments can help the evaluation stage is by clearly communicating that the payment has happened. So confirming the payment was successful or unsuccessful is really important. and there are a variety of ways to support the purchase if necessary. So you can see here on the pie chart, there are different ways customers do receive confirmation of their purchase today, and the more traditional means, such as email, still is most prevalent at 73%, and text is also up there as well. In terms of payment preferences, again, China seems to be taking the lead there in terms of some of the newer ways of communication. They're at 67% preferring text, compared to Australians, with majority of them still preferring email support. And a lot of retailers are, so with retailers trying to steer away from call centres, which are expensive to run, I think what you need to take into consideration is what market are you serving and what is their preference in terms of the way they communicate. So whilst it's nice to move, the preference is to move to cheaper sort of channels such as, you know, live chat, FAQs. FAQs is not popular at all. You have to consider the audience that you're serving. So text is fine, I guess, if your buyers are from China, but not so great if your buyers are from Australia. All right, the other component really around drivers for repeat customers is the variety of payment methods that you offer them to help drive repeat purchasing from your customers. Other than the variety of payment methods, there are other factors as well. What we found is free and fast shipping tended to have one of the biggest influence on whether customers come back to you or not. You can see here on the pie chart that they collectively represent, you know, a significant portion of consumers we surveyed who said that these were really important factors whether they wanted to buy. And you can see this with big retailers like ASOS and Amazon that do offer free shipping or fast shipping. Loyalty rewards is another huge driver as well. There's lots of retailers that run excellent programs. Starbucks is one that's doing particularly well with their program. So if you see here in terms of rewards, what customers are more sort of motivated by rewards, you have Australia and India really high up there, and less significant but still important is China and Japan. And I can certainly talk more about the Australian audience, having lived there for quite a long number of years. Australians are points junkies, and you know, they will definitely gravitate towards retailers and payment methods that offer them the most rewards. So again, have a think about what's the audience you're serving and what's important to them. So this kind of brings me to the end of my presentation. I'd just like to summarize the key points that I shared earlier before we go into Q&A. And that is to be in the channels where your consumers are. No longer, I think, in this day and age, can we just rely on one single channel. Customers do like to move around and you know, when they're at home, they might be on the browser. When they're out, they might be on the mobile. Social channels have become really, really prevalent, you know, fueled by the pandemic, as more people sort of try to, you know, find news about what's happening. They're on these platforms, and while they're on these platforms, they start shopping. So it's definitely not a channel to ignore. And driving consistency, and I'm sure if you joined the session earlier by Adobe with Nicholas Kontopoulos, he would have spoken about personalization. But you know, we'll leave that for Nicholas, who has covered that. You know, the second thing I talked about was around digital innovation and how this is changing the face of retail. So it's really important to think about new technology that your customer base are wanting to engage through. And you know, you've heard about some of these amazing brands like IKEA, Nike. There's BMW as well, you know, that, you know, you can go to their showroom and kind of have a virtual reality or augmented reality goggles on to see what it's like to drive different models, or have it in a different color. just so that you can imagine what it's like to own the item. Localization, we sort of talked about, what are some of the key factors that influence the consideration stage, and having localized website in terms of the language and the currency, we found was the biggest influence whether a customer will actually shop with you. As is having a returns policy that is simple, clearly displayed, not convoluted, so that the customer has that assurance that if it's not something that they want, it's not going to be difficult for them to return. And the likelihood of them actually returning the item, as I shared, is pretty low. Offer them the preferred payment methods. There's a plethora of payment methods, and I think particularly in Asia, where it's really quite fragmented in terms of what customers' preferences are, it's important to engage in a payments partner that really knows and understands the local market nuances, what's an emerging trend, what's popular now may not be popular forever. I'm sure during the course of this conference, you will hear about buy now, pay later. I think one of the buy now, pay laters, Atome, is actually presenting for one of the segments. And, it's very, very popular in certain markets, like Sweden. It's very popular in Australia. It's only really starting to make, a bit of a wave in Asia, but it will catch up, no doubt. Offering secure and frictionless transactions. I mean, this is important, right? Because people want the assurance that, again, their payments data is not going to be compromised. So it's really important to have certain signals to showcase that on your payments page, such as having the shield or the lock there, mentioning it's 128-bit encrypted. There are little signs you can put in place to engender that confidence. Frictionless transactions, I guess we spoke about, if you're going to be in the space of offering customers augmented reality or virtual reality, incorporate payments into that channel. Don't have them to, have to exit that to then go and make a payment. It's just an additional thing, a barrier you're putting in front of the customer. And finally, the last two pieces around evaluation was just to make sure you communicate as clearly as possible across the channels that your customers want to be interacting with you. Things like the payments, whether it's successful. If it's not successful, why was it not successful? Give the customer an opportunity to try and retry with the correct information so that you don't miss that sale. And then the final bit around driving a repeat business is all around giving them what they really want, the type of payment method they want, and whether it's free delivery or rewards or some other aspect, depending on the market that they're in. That's it from me. Thank you very much. We'll now open to Q&A.
Yeah, well, it was an insightful session, and I think many must have learned a lot of things out of it. And I learned a couple of things a lot. India is going high in terms of payment, and second, 54% Indian loyal customers are there. They do repeat purchase. So yeah, it's great. But the way you said in-app purchases, and then also you said about buy now, pay later, or pay in the pieces, it's already been popular in India, and that is one of the reason of 54% repeat purchase. So you are bang on that. We have two questions coming from the audience. First one is, how can retailers strike a balance between offering free shipping without killing their margins?
Yeah, that's a good one because it does cost money, right? To offer free shipping. One of the, I guess, strategies we think that you can shore up, I guess, the free shipping is by offering a subscription, and some of the retailers already do that. I know they do, certainly with the retailers I shop at in Australia, that if you sign up to a subscription model, some of the freebies or the benefits that you'll get is free shipping, and that way you'll get repeat purchase as well. So I think that's certainly one of the ways to offset the costs associated with offering that service.
Great. And we have one more question coming from Priya, which is, which social media channels are driving most amount of in-app sales at the moment?
Okay. Well, I guess if you're talking about social media purchases, you can't really look past what China has been able to do with, you know, platforms like TikTok, which really took off, I think, during the pandemic. So what we're finding is a lot of the social media channels that kind of have the full kind of ecosystem to allow people to engage, to shop, are doing really well. So WeChat Pay and Alipay have been doing that for years. Some of the other social channels like Insta, YouTube, and Facebook, they are launching capabilities in the US, but they've yet to expand that globally, but I'm sure they will.
That's great. That's amazing. And in India, people are now using WhatsApp payment as well, and the PayPal is there. And I think Paytm is also doing substantial market. Yep, that's great. It's insightful. Guys, if you have some more questions, you can catch up Yvonne, and you can ask wonderful questions to her, and I'm sure she would be more than happy to answer you. Thank you, Yvonne, for an insightful session. It's a great beginning. Thanks.
You're most welcome. Thank you, Vatsal. Enjoy the conference, everyone. Bye-bye.